Today I wanted to talk to you about the glute bridge. Now, the glute bridge is a fantastic exercise that works our glutes in their most contracted position. This is the very reason you probably see it in almost every program that I put out for you, because it's such an effective exercise if done correctly. Now, this is why I'm wanting to show you a little bit more about that, because I often see people performing this exercise incorrectly. First, let's talk about the difference between a glute bridge and a hip thrust. You might even think that they're the same thing. So let me show you. A hip thrust starts at the bottom. Generally, you'll see people sometimes on Instagram that have these big barbells, tons of weight, and what they do is they start at the bottom with their weight and they thrust it up and come back down. And they thrust it up and come back down. So yes, you're getting to work those glutes in the contracted position, but also as you come back down, you're releasing all the tension. So it doesn't give you a lot of time under tension. And this is why I prefer the glute bridge and think it's superior. Because what the glute bridge does is it focuses on the bridge, hence the name. And it focuses on the time we spent in the most contracted position. So you'll see in the videos that I show you, we're coming down in a much smaller range of motion and then squeezing back up. So we're really keeping the tension in the most contracted position for a longer period of time. And so that time under tension is actually going to be a lot more effective in building those glutes, okay? So that's why I choose it. So there's a few things you need to consider to be able to really do an effective glute bridge. First of all, you need to consider the height of your bench. Now, I'm 5'8", and so this 18 to 24 inch bench works perfectly fine for me. And the reason I know this is because when I get into position for the glute bridge, I can get full hip extension. That means like I can get my hips all the way up in their most contracted position. My legs are at about a 90 degree, okay? Now, for someone that is shorter, which happens to be a lot of women, you might need to adjust the height of your bench, like find a shorter bench. Sometimes I tell people they can use like those step aerobic benches. Sometimes you can, instead of using the long side of your bench, if your bench declines, you can just set up at the end of your bench and have it shorter. Or another thing that you can do is put something under your feet. So instead of having to adjust the bench, you're raising the height of your feet, which would then allow for, this is out a little bit more, but allow for full hip extension, okay? So getting into that most contracted position, okay? So that's a way to work around the bench issue. The second thing you need to consider is where your shoulder blades are in relation to the bench. So what I always look for is that my the bench is right underneath my shoulder blades here, okay? I tuck my chin, and then the biggest mistake I see people make is hinging at the hips when they're doing the glute bridge, okay? We're not doing little hip scoops. We're actually pretending like trying to keep our neck and spine totally neutral. I would pretend there's a board running from your neck all the way down to your hips. And instead of hinging here, you're hinging at your shoulder blades, okay? See the difference? See how everything stays in line. Now, once I get to the point where my shins start to break vertical, I know I'm going down too far. So this is about the range of motion right here, okay? And then you need to consider weight. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. I prefer doing glute bridges with a barbell just because it's very, very stable. But if you're not to the point where you're using a barbell and plates, or you don't have those accessible, a dumbbell works great. And also, if you're kind of at a point where you're like, this movement in and of itself is super, super challenging, do it without weight until you can get the proper movement pattern down. You're creating appropriate enough tension, building those glutes enough that you can earn the privilege of doing it with weight, okay? So, most people at home, sometimes at the gym, use a dumbbell, okay? So I place the dumbbell right here, kind of in the the little dip of my hip right there, and then I push it up, okay? I make sure everything's lined up. I hold on to the dumbbell the whole time. Don't like try to balance it. Sometimes I see people like
trying to somehow balance the weight on their hips. Don't do that. Hold on to it, tuck your chin, and then you're gonna come down and squeeze. Down and squeeze. You really wanna emphasize that short, contracted position, okay? No hip dips. What that also does is it transfers the load to your low back, so you wanna keep that neck and spine super neutral, okay? You're not doing a glute bridge right unless you have a double chin, okay? Now, if this is all just like way too much, you can always do a floor glute bridge, okay? And that's perfectly fine until you gain strength to be able and coordination to be able to do it off the bench. So the floor glute bridge would look like this. And notice, I'm still not coming all the way down. I'm trying to keep that tension in the glutes as much as possible, okay? All right. I hope this answers any questions. Please take all of these tips and really try to apply them to your training. You're gonna really see a big, huge difference in the effectiveness of this exercise. All right, have a great day. Bye.